Goats doing goat shit. This is a segment where I like to highlight goats within their respective rights, doing dope things because they can. And by goat shit, I mean something dope, something cool, something right and just that they do, even if it costs them financially or otherwise. And making a reoccurring impact on this list is Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan recently opened up his much anticipated comedy club in Austin, Texas, called the Comedy Mothership. It consists of two main rooms called Fat Man and Little Boy, and it's named that after the two atomic bombs that were dropped by the US during World War II on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But he named it after those bombs because folklore has it that, I don't know if folklore is the right term, but it has been said that UFO sightings spiked after the dropping of those two bombs. That's when folks started at least publicly stating being abducted and just like sighting UFOs. And the comedy club has this like UFO alien type motif, hence the name Comedy Mothership. I forget the exact count of the seats, but one room holds about 200 to 250 people, and the other is a smaller room that holds 100 to 150. It also contains a bar where the comics get to hang out, I believe, like that private bar that they get in some clubs. And it's named after Mitzi Shore, R.I.P., which was the owner of the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. And it's called Mitzi's Bar. Another dope homage is a neon sign before the comics go on stage that says, "Get it together, bitch," which is an homage to Joey Diaz, who would always say that to comics as they were going on stage to like shake off the nerves. Now, as some of you may know, Joe moved to Austin, Texas during the pandemic about 3 or 4 years ago. And during this time, there was a prominent comedy club that closed down in Austin, Texas. And it wasn't really a huge comedy scene or comedy hub, but that all definitely changed once Rogan moved to town. And a half dozen or more top tier headliner comics followed suit. And Joe, as we know, has fuck you money from his Spotify deal. And as he has famously said, what's the point in having fuck you money if you don't do fuck you things? So he decided to open up his own comedy club with the added benefit of having a place where he can do his workout sets close by. But what's most interesting is and this is where the doing goat shit element kicks in, is the financial goal of just having the club break even so that all the funds, all the revenues, all the intention can go towards just elevating comedy. And he's been able to do this so far in several ways. One, the first deal that he was negotiating for a comedy club fell through, something to do with the land and some like runoff water, sewer type issues. But because that deal was like ongoing for a while, he had already hired a bunch of the folks like the Adam Egid, who was the manager at the Comedy Store, and a bunch of the staff from the Comedy Store and others. He had already hired them and moved them to Austin. So since that comedy club fell through, it took about a year plus to get the other place, which he bought a historical theater called the Ritz Theater in Austin, Texas, that had been around since, I believe, 1925 or 29, something like that. He kept all those folks on salary and paid, even though obviously the comedy club wasn't open. But since it wasn't their fault or their issue, he used that fuck you money and did right by them. And then he designed the club with comics in mind. He had input from folks like Louis C.K., for example, when it was like close to the end of construction. And, throughout the entire time of construction, he would show it to comics like the Shane Gillises and Bill Burrs and Dave Chappelle's, and they would give their inputs and stuff like that. And famously, Louis C.K. was one of the last ones to like go see it when it was like almost done already. And Louis C.K. was like, you know what? You should drop the ceiling even more. You should cut the stage. Why is the stage so big? Cut the stage, make it smaller, bring the ceilings down. And he had to like redo construction in one of the rooms based on that input. And again, even though it cost him financially, but he did so. And I have not heard one comic, now that it's open, have one negative thing to say. And on top of that, they all are just like praising how perfectly comic friendly it is and how well thought out it is for having like a private bar just for the comics and for the hang. So they don't have to like walk through the crowd to go on stage, for example, and they have their own place to like chill and balconies to be able to like watch each other perform. but like a dope experience for the audience as well. Something else that's dope that he does is that he allows the staff to, because he still promotes like all the other local comedy clubs and himself goes perform at the other local comedy clubs that are still there. And he allows the staff, which are staffs in comedy clubs, if you don't know, they're usually comics themselves or like up and coming comics, you know, trying to like work for stage time. He allows them to like clock out during their shift. If they have a set at another club in town, they'll go do their 10 or 15 minute set and then come back and clock back into work. He allows them to do that, no issue. And from what I've heard from other comics that also have podcasts, is that the amount that he's paying the acts is like unheard of and like blows every other comedy club out of the water. Because again, it doesn't have that, you know, need to turn a profit motive that most all businesses have. But he apparently has asked those comics to, you know, not say how much it is that he's paying folks, but I'm sure somebody somewhere will say something eventually and that information will leak. And just to give you an idea of like ticket sales, virtually impossible to get a ticket. I went on their site, which I'll link to in the episode notes if you guys want to check it out, at comedymothership.com, and you can go months out and everything is sold out. And just to give you an idea of the resales, tickets for opening week were going for like $40. They sold out within minutes and they were being resold online for $500 a piece. And it's still packed 7 days a week, I believe it is. It's fucking insane. So Rogan definitely, as Russ would say, put his money where his mouth is and said something. So shout out to Joe Rogan for being a GOAT that continues to do GOAT shit. And shout out to the Comedy Mothership.